All right, so number 15. Number 15. So once again, I mean, I know for a lot of them you're like, okay, here's a triangle, you can kind of throw them in. But sometimes, you know, it is nice to make a little bit more of a detailed sketch if you have something that's a little bit more detailed. So in number 15, we have a ranger's tower. It's located 44 meters from a tall tree. From the top of the tower, the angle of elevation to the top of the tree is 28 degrees, and the angle of depression to the base of the tree is 36 degrees. How tall is the tree? Okay, I need to think of like what's going on here. So we have a tower. Oh, there we go. Gosh, we got a tree. Okay. All right. So it's okay. I can do that. What does it tell me? That they're 44 meters. Okay, this is 44 meters. Just a reminder. Okay. So this one says from the top of the tower, because now I can visualize. Okay, the top of the tower is right here. From the top of the tower, the angle of elevation to the top of the tree is 28 degrees. Now remember, when we say angle of elevation, it's from a horizontal. So think about there being like a horizontal line here, right? So that angle is 28 degrees. So I had a little bit better time visualizing it now. And then it tells us the angle of depression from that same spot to the base of the tree is 36 degrees. From the top of the tower, the angle of depression, remember, from the horizontal going down is 36 degrees. Okay. How tall is the tree? Well, if we kind of look at our picture, the tree's kind of split into two, right? By this nice horizontal here. So let's call the top X and the bottom Y. And once we find X and Y, we can add them together. The reason I can do that is because when I drew this horizontal across, that now gives me two right angles, right? So I have a right triangle kind of on the top, a right triangle on the bottom. Just as a reminder, I labeled the 44 down here, but this is, you know, that's the distance is 44 meters across. And we're trying to find that vertical height over there. So we just have to do it in 2 steps. So I'll find X first. I'll find the top of the tree. We do it like we always do. Angle, need opposite, have adjacent. So I'm going to use tangent. So tangent of my angle equals opposite over adjacent. And then it's a quick solve because you're just going to multiply both sides by 44. Just to figure out what you get. What do I get? So let's round to 2 decimal places. This is going to be 23, well, it would be 0.395, so I'm going to round to 23.40. And this is meters. So that's for the top half of or top part of my tree. And then I'm basically just going to repeat that step just with the bottom part of my tree. I look at my angle, 36 degrees. Opposite, adjacent. So remember to stay in the triangle. So opposite, adjacent, I'm using tangent again. Tangent of my angle equals opposite is y, adjacent is 44. I'm going to do the same step to solve. I'm going to multiply both sides by 44. And if I round that to the nearest hundred, it's 31.97. And then remember, for the total height, since we just have the bottom and the top, we're just going to add those together. And the total height of this would be 55.37 meters. I know you're probably thinking in your head, like, why would someone do that? Have you ever seen those guys on the side of the road, the surveyor guys? No one? They do like the measuring. Okay, whatever. You'll see them one day. If you ever see those guys on the side of the road, they're measuring property. They're doing it all by like angles. Like, how else do you measure like random huge lots of property?
Oh yeah, I've seen those.
Yeah, the guys, and they always have the little glasses on, and they're looking in something. You're like, where are they looking? You'll see them one day. But that's how you survey stuff. You kind of are just looking at angles and how far is this from this and that from that. And it's very important once you own property because you don't want people putting stuff on yours. But that's how you set up 15. So that was one I thought, like, oh, if you were reading that, just and you kind of came across it, that would be a good one to introduce to you.
Sure. What's the answer?
55.37. So I just added my two sides together. All right, so now we're going to the good one, number 17. All right, so let's just read through it first, then we'll draw a little picture so we can visualize what's happening. And then I'll warn you, we do have to do a little bit of substitution today. Woo. Bringing back the old good stuff. So 17 says, Katie stands on the ground and sights the top of a steep cliff, okay, at 60-degree angle of elevation. Okay, that makes sense. I'm standing here, I'm looking up, there's a cliff. Exciting stuff. Then she steps back. So maybe she's trying to get a better view, take a picture, you step back, you want a different angle. So she steps back 50 meters, and now she looks up at the top of the steep cliff, but now she's at a 30-degree angle. Katie is 1.8 meters tall. How tall is the steep cliff to the nearest meter? So one, we want to visualize it. Two, once we have the actual triangles, that will kind of lead us, hopefully, into how we solve it. So let's start with that one. I'm going to draw my triangle over here. Last time I kind of ran out of room, so it's being too messy. So let's just start from the beginning. Doesn't really matter how you do it. Let's say this is our cliff, okay? One's going. And Katie's over here. And she's going to look up at it. Once again, we know we're always going to have a right triangle. You just have to kind of visualize where things are. So she's standing on the ground. She's looking up at a 60-degree angle of elevation to the top. Okay, that's about all the information it gave me on the first part, but that's okay. Then, think about Katie being right here. She steps back 50 meters. And then re-looks up at that. But now her new angle is 30 degrees. I do know her height, and we're going to take that into account after because her height is actually outside of the triangle. So we'll talk about that at the end. We're just going to focus on inside the triangle right now. So we're saying we really don't have that much information. We have this 50. It's really not helpful because this isn't even the right triangle if you just kind of look at that. So we need to kind of look at this whole thing all together. So we have two things that we don't know. We want the height. So we're going to say that's x. But we also want to know this y distance as well. Because I kind of need that to solve the good old triangle or solve for that piece. So I'm going to be like, all right, what's happening? So let's focus on this triangle first, just from here with the 60-degree angle. When I think about my trig function, I would say from 60 degrees, I'm looking for two things. I'm looking for opposite and adjacent, so I'm going to use tangent. So I'm going to say tangent of 60 degrees equals opposite over adjacent. Now, usually we would know one of these. This is why this one is fancy, because we don't. So we have to do some extra stuff. So what I'm going to do at this point, actually, I'll do it after. I'll do my extra step in a second. Okay, so we'll call this equation 1. We need another equation. So what we're going to do is look at this big triangle from here down here, all the way over and up. So kind of ignore this middle part. With the 30-degree angle. And I would say, well, from the 30-degree angle, I need opposite, and this would be my adjacent, right? This entire side from here to here. So I would say that tangent of 30 degrees equals opposite over, and the adjacent I'm going to just write as y plus 50. Okay, so I'm just going to pause for a second. I'll give you a second. Get caught up if you need it. My main goal is when I'm looking at that, I really have two right triangles. So I always think of like this being the smaller one. So from here, opposite and adjacent, that's where this equation comes from. From this angle, opposite, adjacent, that is that entire side, and that's where that comes from. So what I have are two equations with two variables. We call that a 2x2 system. We can solve using substitution or elimination. We're going to use substitution. So to do so, what I'm gonna do is isolate each of these equations and get x by itself. So to get x by itself, I'm gonna just multiply both sides by y, right? Just cancel that out. Okay, I can do that. So I'm gonna write that as x equals y times tangent of 60. Okay. So same equation. Like who wants fractions? That's a big pain in the butt. So let's get rid of the fraction. Our main goal is to get x isolated. I'm gonna do the same thing over there. I'm gonna get x by itself. I'm gonna multiply by what's in the denominator, just like I did here. So I'm gonna multiply by y plus 50. Always just put it in parentheses, right, because it's a binomial. So over here, I'm gonna multiply by y plus 50. So I'm gonna rewrite that as x equals. We have tangent 30 times parentheses y plus 50. And I'm going to distribute into that. I don't want to keep it like that. So we're going to rewrite this as, I'm going to write it as y tangent 30 and then plus 50 tangent 30. So I'm going to pause after this as well. I'll give you a second. Our main goal is, okay, we have those two equations. Let's get x isolated because we're going to do substitution in a moment. So it's really just a bunch of moving stuff around. And once again, just think back to like everything we've done this year. When you see something new, it's always like, oh, what are we doing? Just follow it. We'll solve it in the end. It'll all be okay. And then all the steps will kind of look like this in the future. And I'll have a few of these for tomorrow as well to try. Okay, so now we're going to actually use substitution. So for substitution, take something. So I'll say, well, x equals this. So I'm going to replace it with x here. I'm going to give myself some room over here. So I'm going to rewrite that as y tangent 60 equals y tangent 30 plus 50 tangent 30. So you can see that I did, instead of saying x equals, I replaced what x was equal to. So now basically those two things are equal to each other. All right, we're not that far off from being done, so just bear with me. And then we're saying, well, now I just have a bunch of stuff, like there's y's on both sides. I don't even really know what's happening. So our main goal is to solve for x or y. There's no x's to be found, so we're going to focus on the y's. I have a y over here on the left, and then I have a y over here on the right. I want to get those y's together on the same side. So I'm going to move this term over here. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite it. So once again, I know sometimes it's just a lot of rewriting, which is kind of annoying. Equals 50 tangent 30. Okay, whew. Almost done. Right, there we go. So the reason I did that, one, I want to solve for y, so we've got to get them together. Two, now that they're on the same side, this y is actually a GCF. They both have it in common. So since it's a greatest common factor, we can divide it out. And the main reason we want to do that is because we want to get that y by itself. Oh, almost done. My arm's falling off. Okay. And then the last step, finally, is since we actually want this y by itself, we're going to divide by what is ever attached to it, which is tangent 60 minus tangent 30. So I'm going to write the next step, and I'll pause for a moment. So I know sometimes it's hard to kind of keep up, or you're like trying to look and write, and what the heck's going on. So I'm going to divide by what is attached to y. So what that does on the left side is it cancels it out. And then I'm going to divide this side by it as well. Okay, so I'm going to stop for a second. I am going to use my calculator in a moment just to find what that is. But I know it's something with a lot of steps. You know, sometimes I get really into it. So take a moment, take a breather. So you can get caught up if you need it. If you see something you have a question on, let me know. But once again, we'll do more practice with these as we go.
Is this going to be on the quiz tomorrow?
There is one. There's not tomorrow, it's Thursday.
Oh, Thursday. Oh, I thought it was one of these. Like
Oh, yeah. There's just one. We're gonna practice more tomorrow. It's gonna be okay. You can that. So once we get to this point, that right side of the equation over here, we're just plugging it into a calculator. Because that's what y is gonna be equal to, calc. Just be careful. So calculators are great because they do the work for you. Some of them get a little bit, they get mad at you if you do things wrong. So like I know on the TI ones that a lot of people have, if I hit the tangent button, it like opens a parentheses. Make sure you close the parentheses. I put everything extra in parentheses. Like I'm a parentheses like lover. I just like put everything in parentheses. So just be careful. So right now, can you try to plug that into your calculator? 50 tangent 30 divided by tangent 60 minus tangent 30 and see what you get. Because if you're not getting the right thing, I want to clear it up now. But once again, I put the numerator in parentheses, I put the denominator in parentheses, I put parentheses around everything. Just so it doesn't get confused as to how I'm grouping things, because that can happen sometimes. And that stinking old order of operations can mess you up if you don't put parentheses. Oopsie, I know I did something wrong. Oh, I didn't close a parenthesis. I just gave this whole spiel and I didn't close that parenthesis. Yeah, just leaving that one parenthesis gave me the wrong answer. The answer should be, so you know that you get it when you get there, it should just be 25. No decimals, a nice beautiful answer. So take a second. If you're not getting it, just say, hey, can you come look at this? And then I'll just look at it. You did it?
Is the answer 25?
Yeah.
Because remember last time you told me I forgot my second thing.
Yeah, because that's a lot, like what happens is it'll open and then you'll have it open, so you have to close it twice. Like that happens to me all the time. Yeah, that's just like getting used to everyone's calculator is different, so we just need to get used to it. All right, still chugging along here. Okay, I'm super excited I found Y. Not actually what I needed X, so that's exciting. But the nice part, once you find one variable, you can just plug it in to find the other one. So what I did is I just said, well, if Y is 25 and I need X, I'm just gonna go back to right here. Because X is just gonna equal 25 times tangent of 60. So don't go back to anything too crazy, find whatever's gonna be easiest and plug into that. So 25 times tangent of 60 is 43.3. Yeah, that sounds good. It's 43.30. So. Why is this not my final answer?
Because she has a height thing.
Because of her height, right? So that means, I'm saying, the 1 point whatever meters is from her eyeballs, I'm saying. From her eyeball, she looked up. So here we go. Look at it, it's like this. This is my eyeballs. I need to take into account my height, and then I'll add the height of the triangle. So we gotta add her height back in, which is 1.8 meters. 8 meters. And then my final answer is something.
45.1.
Thank you. I was like, I have it on this paper somewhere. I just have a lot written on here. There we go, guys. Now, one, remind yourself of all the hard stuff we've done this year. And every time we started something new, you're always like, oh, like I can't do this. And then you did it. Because that's what, you gotta train your brain. So we have another one on there, number 18 is very similar. So like on that one, you're like, how do I follow these steps so I understand what goes where? And then tomorrow I'll make sure that I have a few extra examples as well. Once again, the quiz is 13 questions. There's one of those. So I always try to get partial credit. You do your best. It's not gonna like kill you either way, but you know it's always nice if you get it right type of deal. That just took some energy out of me. But that was 17. Let me set up 14 with you, and then I think all the other ones should be pretty straightforward. Definitely the whole front is just like quick, like, oh, yep, I can do it, you know. I have the answer key, but I was redoing them just because you can't see it that well. And those ones, like, I didn't have to do any fancy drawings or anything. So number 14, I just wanted to point out, I'm just recording this, so I'm gonna put that over here. For 14, we have a TV antenna stands on the edge of the top of a 52-story building. So, okay, these are the ones I'm like, I gotta draw it. I have a building. I have a TV antenna on the edge. I don't know what a TV antenna looks like. There you go. Okay. From a point 320. Oh my gosh, I just gave me a heart attack. My screen did.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I just heard some.
You weren't here for the good problem, the step back problems.
Oh,
I know.
some good stuff.
I know. This is when you know you're like a math geek, because I actually like to do it.
Sum and difference of tangents.
It's just, well, we're not doing that. We're just saying.
Sorry, my bad.
We're using substitution.
Okay, we're using substitution.
We're using substitution.
All right.
Anyways, so that's on the edge. What do we get? From a point 320 feet from the base of the building. So I literally go like sentence by sentence. Okay, so we got 320 feet somewhere over here. Running out of room, but you got the idea. Okay, I can do that. The angle of elevation to the top of the antenna is 64 degrees. Oh, that's a bad line, but you get the idea, 64 degrees. Because then it goes back and it says, if each story is 12 feet high, find the height of the antenna. So it's telling us, we know from the beginning that that's a 52-story building, and they tell me that each story is 12 feet. So 52 times 12 is 624 from here to here, and I want to find that. Okay, so you can't do anything. You can't like make it just this. You can't do that. You have this side. You have this angle. What I can do is I can find this entire side using my trig function, because that would be opposite and adjacent, and I could use tangent. And then once you find that whole side, you would just subtract off the amount that you knew to find that the amount that you didn't know. That's that one. Once again, some of them get a little, that one wasn't too terrible, but some of them, like the words, are a little confusing. I tried to make it as straightforward as possible on the quiz, so you weren't confused. Or, anything like that.